Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are, because it is really good to be here today. My name is Baltimore Fats, and this is a continuation of Baltimore. Yeah, okay, here we go. Jubilee Part 3. So it's the weekend. It's the weekend before the Jubilee, Friday, September 7th, and they need to get that hype machine rolling. All right, and so here's some of the things they want us to know on Friday the 7th. All right, that the home product exposition starts tomorrow on Saturday, and how they want to make it an annual thing, because other cities have found great success in creating annual home product expositions, and they want us to know that that not one member of the Travelers and Merchants Association Home Product Expositions Company, who have been working night and day for the success of the affair, will in any manner benefit one penny. Not a cent these guys are going to make from all of this. Whatever profit accrues, if there be any profit, right, because you got to put that in there, it will be devoted to the good works of the association in bringing the merchants of the country, particularly of the South, to Baltimore and entertaining them after they get here, as well as forming a nucleus for a permanent exposition fund. It is purely a public-spirited movement. The association carefully asks the liberal patronage of the public and their hearty cooperation in the good work. So, please come again and keep coming. They want the ministers of the area, all the preachers, to preach from their pulpit about the atrocities of the Great Fire, the disaster, and what a remarkable turnaround Baltimore City has made in such a short period. They want the preachers to sell the Jubilee and the exposition. All right, and they also ask that if you're a business or a merchant in downtown area, please decorate your storefront for the Jubilee. And they want to let us know about the success of Timonium's fair, which was on Thursday, the day before, right? They had 30,000 attend this thing, right? And so I wanted to look and see what was the population of Baltimore County, and I found this is a World Population Review, and it was 122,000 in 1910. So, you figure maybe 100,000 at the time, and so, roughly 30% of the population of Baltimore County, at least numerically, was at that fair, and this morphs into the Timonium Fair, morphs into the Maryland State Fair, which is now held every Labor Day weekend. So I thought that was pretty amazing, all right? But, not all as well, because they still need more than $1,700 in order to reach their 25,000. And now the initial 100,000 that they wanted was going to have funds matched, 100,000 matched by the state. This 25,000 is going to be matched by the city. And so they're still $1,700 short on Friday the 7th. I guess the money wasn't rolling in the way they thought it would, which is strange considering there's this article in Saturday the 8th. And now this article is a real eyebrow raiser for me, because, it says the healthy condition of real estate in Baltimore, right? And it goes on just briefly to talk about the influx of population, people coming in, to help rebuild the city. Right, and it says now nearly all of the buildings destroyed by the fire have been replaced, yet the demand and activity of the market continue. This is not in the nature of a boom, but is a condition which bids fair to be permanent, because it is wholesome and rests upon a firm foundation. Right, it was supposed that building for some years would be confined to the vacant lots of the Burke district, but this has not been the case. Right? Thousands of dwellings have been erected in the suburbs and in the northern, eastern, and western wards of the city. The business districts which the fire did not reach, many old structures have been demolished and replaced by splendid buildings. Right? So thousands of dwellings erected in the suburbs and the northern, eastern, western parts of the city. Business streets which the fire did not reach, old structures have been demolished and replaced by splendid buildings. Charles Street, for several blocks north of the fire line, has largely been rebuilt and contains some of the finest edifices in the city. and other streets have been improved to an almost equal extent. So we're talking not just the burnt district, not just what happened down by the Inner Harbor here, but all of Baltimore City and the suburbs being built at the same time. In this 2-year time frame, 1904 to 1906, it's just building, 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 right? And so this is, it's just unbelievable. Right? It says, in the suburbs, extending beyond the city boundaries into Baltimore County, lots have advanced marvelously in price, and many beautiful suburban homes have been erected. The last 2 or 3 years, the cost of building has greatly advanced. Wages and materials are both much higher, and yet building operations are far more active under these conditions than they were when all things going into the work of construction were cheaper. Unbelievable. I mean, so they're really giving you the hard sell at this time. How much building, how much greater Baltimore and the greater Baltimore area is. All of these buildings popping up all at the same time. How are these? Who's building them and how are they building them? It's unbelievable. Right, on the eve of the Jubilee week on Saturday, right? The celebration starts tomorrow with the Home Products Exposition. Right, but they're still $1,500 short. He only raised $200 overnight, but he's confident that he's going to get the rest today. Of course he is. And so now we're on to Sunday and the Sunday paper. And so here we are with the Sunday paper. Right, got to get the hype machine rolling in a big way on the Sunday before, of course, and it's also the first day of the home product. Or the second day of the Home Product Exposition. Right? And one thing that fascinates me about these early newspapers is how the front pages are mostly advertisements. Yeah, they do have some news, and then sports news, Harvard lost. But, it's important to keep the public occupied. So it's important that the first thing they see in their news are all the shows and all the things that they can do to occupy their attentions when they're not at work or whatever. All right? And, of course, because there's no TV or radio or anything like that. And, if their minds aren't occupied and diverted, then they might actually spend some time thinking about the corrupt government and religion and things like this, right? So you got to keep them entertained, right? Entertainment is the name of the game. Right? And the first ad that really sort of jumped out at me was this Creator and his band, right? And it just, the font and everything about it just made me think, the visual that came to mind was like this sort of mystical band leader, like something out of Something Wicked This Way Comes. He breezes into town to weave his spell with his music over the Jubilee, right? And so I did a little digging, and I was able to find out some things about Creator, and his name was Giuseppe Creator, and he was a very famous band leader of the day, right? But he really kind of steps it up a notch after the turn of the century, right? He goes next level, and he comes back in 1902 after going back to Italy with a brand new band of 60 musicians, right? And he starts to be able to demand top dollar at his shows. He has a regular gig at Atlantic City. He tours the country, right? And so for the next several years after 1902, he's booked solidly with concerts priced at $5,000 a performance, which is like $140,000 per, right? And he's playing the Jubilee all week. Right? All week he's going to be there, right? 5 concerts, $25,000, $700,000 in today's money for a week's worth of shows for the Jubilee. Who paid him, And I do have some pictures of him. Oops. Here's Giuseppe. All right, there he is. And he was very famous for his flair. He gesticulated and, gave very animated conducting performances, right? So there he is, and here's his band, right, in town all week. And it's pretty amazing. Like, who paid him that? Where did that money come from? And then the next one that I noticed was this Master Gabriel and, Little Jack Horner. And, of course, Gabriel is kind of like an important name, religiously and so forth. And so I wanted to see, kind of what he looked like. Oh, because it says here, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit. He's America's toy comedian. So I needed to find out, who is this Master Gabriel toy comedian? Right? Maybe it was a typo for top, but no, he was the miniature comedian, Master Gabriel. There he is, and he's going to be in Little Jack Horner all week. All right, and they talk about the confetti carnival right on the front page, advertising it for Friday night. Everyone's going to be invited. The secret order. I just love that they invite secret orders. And this is not new. I mean, I'll show you in a bit. All your boat clubs and lodges, athletic clubs, you're all invited. And there's going to be prizes for the best costume, right? The most grotesque, original, and unique. And I can't wait to get into the confetti carnival. It's amazing. Right? And so scrolling around and looking for more advertisements, they do advertise the home products exposition here, right? And the admission is 25 cents, which works out to be about $7 in modern money. So $7 a head to get in, right? And not only is it going to have 200 magnificent manufacturer exhibits, it's going to have the world's greatest attractions, fighting the flames and wild animals and airships and incubators. And I'm going to go into some of that too. It's pretty amazing. So when I was thinking about they're promoting all of this stuff, right? And the Timonium Fair was just earlier in the week. And they're promoting how strong the economy and real estate markets are in Baltimore. It made me curious as to what did people make? What was the average salaries of the day, right? And I found this website, U.S. Statistics in the year 1905, right? And it says that the life expectancy was 47. I don't believe that. I like this. 8,000 cars in the U.S. and only 144 miles of paved road, which if you do the math works out to something like 55 cars per mile. A lot of dirt roads. So yeah, your tires had to be sturdy, your suspension, your shock system, all of that. So your cars needed to be well constructed with all the dirt roads and everything, your suspension, your shocks and all of that, right? But here, the average wage in the U.S. was 22 cents an hour. The average U.S. worker made between $200 and $400 per year. Now, the 22 cents an hour is this 400, right? So $200 an hour is roughly, and it wasn't quite 11, it's like 11 cents an hour, right? So that works out to like just about $3 an hour would be like your minimum wage, I guess, at the time. And so you're asking people for the exhibition, which they want people to keep coming, right? They want you to keep going at $7 a head, so at 20, so more than an hour's wage, if you're making top dollar, in the middle class. All right. Pretty amazing. All right. But also, not only do they get the hype machine rolling in the Sunday paper here, they sent out articles to other newspapers because they want tours. So this is the one they sent to the New York Times. I'm sure they sent one to Philadelphia and Washington and whatever other major cities that were in striking distance by a train ride. All right. And I'm not going to read this one, but this is what they were sending out. They wanted to draw tourists and outsiders into Baltimore for this, right? And so for the products exposition, they say it was held at Electric Park. And so here's Electric Park, right? The clubhouse and deck at Electric Park. And I have some better pictures of it that I'm going to go over in a minute. But just to continue with some of the amazing statements that were made at this time, that perhaps maybe people didn't, they're not thinking ahead and saying, 115 years from now, people are going to be looking back and going, what? So I'm just going to go over this article real quick. One of the main attractions is this Fighting the Flames, all right, which was a very popular show it was also a touring show. They had it at all the exhibitions in like New York and Buffalo and St. Louis and places like that, and it was a simulated fire, burning things down. Let's just reenact the fire as a nice reminder for the people of Baltimore. This is remember what we're celebrating here. There was a major fire, but the mayor speaks, and this Congressman Gill speaks, right? And one of the things he says is he talks about how bleak things were before the fire, but then now after the fire. Right, the manufacturing plants of Baltimore have grown so since the fire that it is impossible to find an adequate amount of labor for them. There are more jobs than there are people in Baltimore in 1906. Right, unbelievable. How did they get anything done if there were so many jobs but not enough people? I don't know. And so they had their shows, right, and I like that the incubator exhibit had babies that were 6 to 18-month-old in their incubator. 18-month-olds are a little old to be in incubators, don't you think? The novelty of it, you can put your baby in this little heated box. 6 to 18-month-old babies were there. That was pretty unbelievable. And so, the Electric Park in Baltimore was an amusement park in Maryland located at the intersection of Belvedere Avenue and Reisterstown Road, right? And it was a trolley park. And so trolley parks were like the end line for electric trolley and trolley cars and stuff back in the day. And if you'd like to know more about trolley parks, I recommend checking out Michelle Gibson's great video that she did recently on the similarities of trolley cars and things like that. And I'll try to remember to put a link to her video in the description. She's doing great work over there. And it was a racetrack and for harness racing, right? And it was the primary attraction were the thousands of light bulbs that shone at night, right? And the admission to the park was free, although not for the exposition, which cost a quarter. Right? And it was the first place in the state of Maryland to show motion pictures, which really helped establish the park's popularity, right? And it had the first automobile race, right? In 1900, a carousel was added. There was a casino restaurant and a simulation of the Johnstown flood, which I'll get to that in a second, right? Let's just talk about some of the other things, right? There was a shoot the chutes ride, which is like a flume, right? And there was a human roulette wheel, and 2 roller coasters, boating attraction, vaudeville acts. It was a massive amusement park, of which I guess at the time Baltimore was filled with. There was many of them. I'm going to have to, somewhere in Mud City, there'll be an episode about the amusement parks. But I want to talk about this Johnstown flood recreation that they have as entertainment. Right? This was a massive tragedy that happened in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. 2,200 people were killed. $17 million at the time, right, or almost $500 million in today's money. Right? It was a massive, massive disaster. Yet they had a simulation at Electric Park, and so I have a few more pictures of Electric Park that I was able to find. All right, here it is on a postcard. All right, that's the entranceway. All right, and here's the entrance to the Johnstown flood exhibit. Right? It was a regular attraction there. Unbelievable, that's the entertainment. Other cities' disasters were Baltimore's entertainment, including their own, with the Fighting the Flames exhibit that they brought in special. Right? And here it is at night. Here's the thousands of lights. This is, the main attraction for Electric Park at night. Right? Pretty spectacular for 1906, maybe. Right? Right? And so this is where the housing product exposition is. And what kind of things could you find there? Well, they give you this. All right, housekeeping by electricity may soon become one of the features of domestic life if the inventors keep on discovering new uses for the electric current. And they talk about one of the exhibits that's going to be on display is the electric carpet beater and sweeper. So it's a vacuum. So vacuums start to be introduced around this time, 1906 and so forth. And that's the type of display, the manufacturers they're going to have their exhibits trying to sell this stuff. All right. And so the main article, the main piece of hype that they want to put forward in the Sunday paper is they want to remind everybody, young and old, that Baltimore is not new to these major jubilees, and that they had one just about 25 years ago with the Jubilee of 1880, when Baltimore celebrated its 150th birthday. And so I think I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to pick up part 4 with the Jubilee of 1880. So I hope you enjoyed this one. The Jubilee is going to keep on rolling, and until the next one, cheers, guys.